Welcome, everybody. It is Watts, and we have some exciting authors that are going to talk. We have Susin Nielsen. I'm going to start the kids' programming session this morning with a land acknowledgement. That we are on Lethbridge Public Library acknowledges that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pay respect to the Blackfoot people of the past, the present, and the future, while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. The city of Lethbridge is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. So thank you very much. My name is Jenny. I'm the host for this morning for the kids programming section of Watts, Word on the Street. We are going to start with Susin Nielsen, and I will just do a brief bio, and then we will have a video, and Susin will talk and share. So I want to introduce Susin Nielsen. She got her start writing for the hit TV series Degrassi Junior High and went on to write for over 20 Canadian shows. More recently, she turned her hand to novel writing. She is the author of 5 critically acclaimed and award-winning titles, including Optimists Die First, We Are All Made of Molecules, Word Nerd, and the Reluctant Journal of Henry K. Larsen. Welcome, Susin. We're thrilled to have you. And we will now have a short presentation from a school class. So just hang on, and that will be shown soon. And then Susin, we'll get to chat with her.
Good morning, and welcome to the presentation of the 2020 Rocky Mountain Book Award Medal. My name's Marnie Rogstad, and I'm a librarian in Lethbridge and member of the Rocky Mountain Book Award Committee. As we get ready to celebrate the Rocky Mountain Book Award's 20th anniversary and 20 years of exceptional children's literature, which, by the way, are on our beautiful 20th anniversary poster, I can't think of a better way to kick things off than to present the 2020 Rocky Mountain Book Award Medal to Susin Nielsen for her novel, No Fixed Address. A 4-time Rocky Mountain Book Award nominee, and now the only 3-time Rocky Mountain Book Award winner, Susin has been a champion of the Rocky Mountain Book Award since her first win for Word Nerd in 2010. Her generous support of this award has been enthusiastic and unwavering over the years, and we are thrilled that she's such an integral part of our 20th anniversary celebrations. For those of you unfamiliar with No Fixed Address, it tells the story of 12-year-old Felix Knutson and his loving but flighty mom, Astrid, who, when they lose their Vancouver apartment, temporarily have to move into a Westphalia camper van, ostensibly until Astrid can find a job. When September comes and they're still in the van, Felix must keep this a secret and provide a false address in order to enroll in school. Luckily, Felix has the support of 2 great friends at school, but they don't realize how dire his situation really is, since he's so adept at hiding his problems. As the weeks pass and life becomes bleaker, Felix is selected to compete on a national quiz program that could earn him $25,000 and a way out of his and Astrid's situation. Susin's realistic depiction of Felix's experience as one of the hidden homeless that exist across our country is enlightening and heartbreaking. In times of difficulty and uncertainty, stories and the connections they provide are what we turn to, and they are what can help us get through. It's not at all surprising, then, that No Fixed Address, written with Susin's characteristic humor and humanity, and with its message of friendship, resilience, and hope, is what readers embraced during this challenging time in our history. But don't take it from me. I'm a grown-up, and I'm not actually Susin's target demographic. So let's hear from someone that Susin is actually writing for. Tate Lowe is a grade 6 student at Senator Joyce Fairbairn Middle School here in Lethbridge, and was, last year and the year before, a very enthusiastic member of the Rocky Mountain Book Award Club at Coalbanks Elementary School. He was also one of the many readers across Alberta who voted for No Fixed Address. So congratulations, Susin. And Tate, over to you.
Because I actually know 2 Joanne Levies, but one of the Joanne Levies, hi, just come here for a sec. I'm just made me a felt image of my cat, Emily Bronte, and I just thought everybody might like to see my little tortoiseshell. Now she's going to run away because she's very scared, but her name's Emily Bronte, so I just thought I'd give you a little introduction. I'm delighted to be here, and Actually, I really love Lethbridge. I got to go to your Word on the Street one year and do some events, and it was so much fun. Um, No Fixed Address, which won the Rocky Mountain Book Award, which I'm delighted about. Um, very briefly, where this idea came from for me, it kind of was at two different places. One was something that happened like quite a long time ago. I would say probably 10 years ago. I was having a conversation with a guy who told me that he and his wife and 8-year-old daughter had lived in a VW van for a full year while he was finishing his master's up at UBC, because UBC, University of British Columbia, because they couldn't afford to rent anywhere here. And what an adventure it had been, and how much his daughter had loved it. And I remember I have quite a few judgy thoughts, and I had the very judgy thought in my head. I bet it wasn't fun all the time. You know, maybe it was fun in the summer, but I wonder what it was like for her in November when it pours with rain here, when it's pitch dark by 5 o'clock. You're in a vehicle with no heating, no toilet. You have no privacy away from your parents. And so that just stuck in the back of my head. And then, of course, I started seeing here in Vancouver, increasingly, I would say, especially with our previous Liberal government, a lot of homes being bought up, torn down, big new homes being built, and nobody living in them, because our real estate market became a place for people to park their money. A lot of offshore money was coming in. And, you know, I don't blame any of those people, you know, wanting to get their money out of whatever country they were getting their money out of. They were told this was a good thing to do and that they could do it because there were no regulations to stop it from happening. And so in my block alone, at one point, there were 3 houses on my side of the street only that stood empty, nobody living in them. And our housing crisis, we already had a housing crisis, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And I started noticing a lot of vans and RVs parked down by the beach, parked on side streets. And you really got this. Well, they were. I mean, people were living in these vehicles. And that was where the whole idea of Felix and his mom began. So maybe I will, I mean, I can talk about anything, and anybody who knows me knows I'm a pretty good talker, but I'm also happy to leave it there and just make sure that we do get through any questions there are. I'm happy to answer anything. And Jenny, are you going to ask me the questions, or do you just want me to go to, I see there's some in the Q&A.
Do you want to go through those in the Q&A, Susan? And then I do have other questions if we need more, or we'll just kind of see how the time goes.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm just seeing some familiar names here. That's so nice. Well, Colleen McKee, who is a wonderful writer and a blogger from PEI. Lavender Lines, I think, was the name of her blog. She's asking, what do I have in the works now? I do have a new book coming out in spring of 2021. It's called Tremendous Things. For those of you who are big Charlotte's Web aficionados, you might recognize the expression. It's about 14-year-old Wilbur. And I guess what I can say about it is that something happens to Wilbur his very first day of 7th grade when he's just moved to a new city. It's my first book that isn't set in Vancouver. It's set in Toronto. He's moved there from Vancouver, and something happens on his very first day of school that winds up defining him in the eyes of all of his classmates, a very embarrassing, humiliating thing. And as any of us who've lived through high school know, sometimes that one thing winds up defining you for a lot longer than it should, and it kind of carries on with him into high school. So that's sort of the, I guess, the nubbin of the idea. The other thing I'm working on right now, which sadly is taking me away from the book writing for a while, is I've kind of gone back to my old life, a TV series that I had pitched a long, long time ago, had a bit of I guess, a resurgence or something. And we got the green light to go into production. So I've been heavily in production. We shot 2 weeks of the show pre-COVID, got shut down for 4 months and came back on July 21st. And we shoot until October 14th. So, and that's called Family Law. And it will be on Global TV, probably also in the spring of 2021. So it's been very interesting going back into that world. And it's, yeah, I'm the showrunner, and I'm playing hooky this morning to be here. So I'm saying hello to Michelle Dimnick and Kari Tanaka from the U of L bookstore. Let's see, some of these questions are not really mine to answer, but April Demis, I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right. You're asking that your middle school kids want to know about how long you spend writing a novel. I normally spend about 9 months to a year working on a draft that I'm happy about, that I'm happy with, I should say. So obviously that's a draft that I've done a lot of rewriting on as well. And then I send it to my first line of readers. That would be my husband. It used to be my son, but he grew uninterested when he was about 16. He's now 24. My friend Susan Juby, she's a fabulous Canadian author, and we exchange manuscripts quite frequently. And my agent, and I get notes from them. And, I finesse, and then we send it to my publishers. And then, of course, I get a lot of notes from my publishers and my editors, and then I rewrite. So I would say, if you are somebody who likes to write, a lot of writing is about rewriting. So, and then Jeff Milner has some questions from some of his grade 5 students. Rebecca wants to know how old I was when I wrote this book. Rebecca, I was so old, and I'm older. I'm even older now. I am 56. So I guess I was, probably about 53 or 52 when I started writing that one. And then Kaya asks, if I wanted to be an author, what would I do to get ready? What a great question. Well, Kaya, I can tell you, the best thing you can do is to write. And I don't say that to be trite. I really mean it. I wrote a lot when I was your age. And in fact, I can spin around here for a sec and show you a couple of things. This is I like to call this my first published book, The Smallest Snippet of Snippeton. They put it into my school library when I was in grade 6, I believe. And 4 kids took it out of the library. That was my first readership. I did all my own illustrations. They were very, very bad. But I really wrote all the time. And so I don't know if you keep a journal, but I would say it's a really good idea to keep a journal. I kept journals for a very long time. And I've got boxes of my journals. And in fact, the very first paragraph of the very first diary I ever wrote, you can see, that's the very first entry. I was 11 years old, and I said, this is the first day I've really written in a diary. The reason I am is because I love writing stories. And if I do grow up to be a famous writer and later die, and they want to get a story of my life, I guess I should keep a diary. So I wanted to be a writer for a long time. And so I think at your age, you have to think about, not about getting published, but about doing it for the love of it and writing, finding your own voice, having fun with it. I think that's key. Have fun with it. And now I've been told, because I think we're going to watch the video. Yeah.
Hey everybody tuning into this event. I'm really excited to be able to participate. Last year in Rocky Mountain Book Club, we read lots of great books. However, No Fixed Address by Susin Nielsen was at the top of my list. There's lots of reasons why I enjoyed the book, but I thought it might be nice for Susan to hear from a couple other kids than just me. Take it away, guys. This was exceptional! I just ate it all up! I especially enjoyed the relationship between Felix and his mother. His mom was so kind and generous and a tremendous listener. I ate it all up. Here you go, guys.
Oh, hello, bonjour. It's Nancy here. My name is Jacques Mbappé. I am from Montreal, Quebec, and I am an aspiring writer. I absolutely love this book. If I appreciated the French culture, because I am French Canadian. I love the descriptive words, very incredible. They were amazing and just delicious. I love them. Your book has inspired me to continue on my path as towards writing creative stories. I want to be a writer because it is my passion. It has always been a part of me. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love this book. Merci beaucoup.
I am in love with this book! It's as good as like hitting a three-pointer. Swish! Like a home run, a touchdown, or even a goal! It was the best. This book left me hanging. I was like, are you kidding me? What's gonna happen? It was amazing. I enjoyed every second of it. I'm your biggest fan, Suze. You nailed it, Suze. I'm your biggest fan. Yeah. Thank you so much. About Susin Nielsen. I love how a friend down to time to time. I love the phone. I just want you know, thanks, guys. When I first heard I'd be giving this award to you, I immediately went straight back to the library and signed out this book so I could read it again. I read it in one day because I couldn't put it down. I really like the humor in this book. I also like how it helps me become more aware of other kids that might not be in my same situation. So on behalf of all the students in Alberta and all of the avid readers, we'd like to thank you for all of your hard work writing all your amazing books. I'm pleased to present to you the 2020 Rocky Mountain Book Award. Congratulations. Can't wait to read your next book.
Oh, it looks so great. It's so clever. Sure. Crew, thank you for your question. You were asking how long did it take to write this book. So somebody preempted you on that question. Malin asks, what made me want to be an author? You know, that's a really interesting question. You know, I suppose maybe a little bit of it is just kind of in your DNA. I was an only child. I grew up with a single parent mom, and she had to work to support us. So, you know, you'll see some similarities sometimes with some of my books. I often have single parent moms. And so I was what's called a latchkey kid. And that meant that, you know, I got myself to school in the mornings and I got myself home at the end of the day, and you had your key around your neck. And so I spent a lot of time on my own. And I don't say that as a sad story, but I do, because I think I spent a lot of time in my head, in my imagination. And of course, I grew up in a time when, like, there were no computers, there were no video games. We got 2 channels on our read a lot of books. So I played a lot of imaginary games. And I think that that's possibly where some of my interest started in becoming a writer. I just loved, telling stories and things like that. Michelle Dimnick asked me, how do I choose my names? Because I always have unique names for my characters. I don't spend an inordinate amount of time on names. I think a writer can get really bogged down if they spend too much time. That said, names are very important. And I have sometimes started writing a book and had a different name for a character, and it just doesn't feel right. And I have to keep looking. And I do have, let's see if I can find it really quickly here. This book is now over 24 years old because I bought it for when I was pregnant and trying to pick out a baby name. And I refer to this all the time. I can hear somebody else talking in the background, just FYI. So I use this a lot. And I believe I used this to find the name Felix. Astrid was always Astrid. My husband is Swedish. And so, I often, I sometimes use that as well. And then Cosmo in Word Nerd, for example, I literally Googled Greek male first names. And when I got to C and saw Cosmo, I was like, well, it's Cosmo. That's who it is. And Economopoulos was the last name of a friend of mine in high school, who I actually got to reconnect with in London, Ontario. And I gave her a copy of the book because I totally stole her last name. I agree with Kari Tanaka that if the video was that good in silent mode, it's going to be amazing with sound. And if there is a way for us to see that video, if it doesn't work today, I'd sure like to see it because it looks fabulous. And I can see, that young man who was starring in it clearly put a lot of work into it too. We've got a filmmaker in the works for sure.
I was going to let you know, Susan and everyone else, that we'll share the video online later. They're still having difficulty, but you have to watch it. It will be there.
Cool. And I think I've gone through the questions in the Q&A here. So
we've got about 5-10 minutes. If anyone else has questions, feel free to type it in the Q&A. I do have a few, Susan.
Great, okay.
We wondered, Michelle Dimnick, actually, I wondered about research for the book on homelessness. I know you touched on it, but how did you? That would be a tough topic, and how did you get into feeling?
What I for this particular book, and what I tend to do for a lot of my books is, quite honestly, it's largely an act of the imagination. So I start out just imagining what would it be like. One of the first things I did was I got a tour through a friend's Westphalia van, so that I could really understand what the space was like. I mean, they're remarkably cool vehicles, but not for living in full time. And so then I just started to imagine. I started to imagine what would it be like being this young boy living in a van, a boy who I always start with character. And Felix is somebody who loves and trusts his mom, right? And he goes through that. I mean, part of his journey is that journey that all kids go through, where you start to realize that your parents are, flawed. We're all flawed. And Astrid is, she is flawed. She loves her son very much. And I love Astrid very much. And I think you get to understand why she is the way she is. I mean, she's got her own very tragic history. But so I kind of start from that place of just really putting myself into the character's situation. And then I start to get the experts involved. So I have a friend who is a social worker with the Ministry for Child and Family Services out here. So I started to ask her a lot of questions. What would happen? What would have happened when Astrid was a girl, and what would happen now? And there are very big differences. We have a great, I think most communities do, where you can call or email your local police department. They have a media liaison office, and they've always been so helpful to me, getting back to me really quickly, answering all of my questions. I always bring them a copy of my book when it comes out. I have no idea if they read them or not. Trying to think of who else was, and then of course it was super fun talking to people about game shows, right? I talked to a woman who was on Jeopardy, a woman who lives here in Vancouver. She was on Jeopardy. A guy I know in Toronto from my TV career who produces a lot of the Canadian game shows, like, Canada's Smartest Person and stuff like that. Kevin Sylvester, who's another fabulous Canadian author. He was on Canada's Smartest Person. So I asked him a lot of questions. And then I also have beta readers, young people who I ask to read the book and give me their feedback as well. So that's kind of my process. Yeah, I see there are some more questions here.
Yeah. Can you go through those, Susan?
And Kaylee, please rest assured, I'm so excited to see this video, and I can already tell that your son did an incredible job. So I look forward to seeing it, and we'll find a way for me to communicate my gratitude to him, okay? Joanne Levy, hi Joanne, was asking if I ever get so invested in my characters that you find it hard to put them in such tough situations. That's such an interesting question. Well, yes, in the sense that I have had chapters that I have found very hard to write. There was one chapter in particular in The Reluctant Journal of Henry K. Larsen that I just kept putting off because I knew it was going to be really emotional, even for me, the writer. And then, to be honest, I suppose there's also like this mercenary part of me that knows that if I'm getting to a part that's going to be challenging, like in this book, I know I have had some readers say, I can't believe you killed the gerbil. I think that's as far as I would ever go in terms of I would never be able to kill a cat or a dog, for example. Sorry, gerbils, but I sometimes know that if I am finding it hard, that the mercenary part of me knows that I'm also hoping that that'll be kind of a gut punch to the reader. So it's I suppose it's a mix, but I would never do anything that didn't feel organic and like it should happen. And I absolutely, anybody who's read my books, I deal with dark subjects, but I always end on a note of hope. I just can't stay in the dark place. I don't like reading stuff like that, and I don't like writing it. April Demies says, what are some of your favorite novels, one of all time and two from other Canadian authors? This is always such a hard question, and I feel like I need to like spend time at home alone working on my answer, because I always draw a complete blank when I hear the question. And of course, I read a lot, because that's the other thing I would say to Kaya, who was asking about writing. If you want to write, you also have to read. You have to be a big reader. You have to be curious. You have to be reading all the time. Certainly, like really off the top of my head, I mean, a book that I just loved a few years ago was A Gentleman in Moscow. I loved that book so much. And another Gentleman in Moscow. This is, again, this isn't of all time, but a book I just read that I really, really liked was Rodham by Curtis Sittenfeld. about what would have happened if Hillary Rodham hadn't married Bill Clinton. It's a great book. I really enjoyed it. And then other Canadian authors, well, I have a lot of Canadian authors I love, both in the realm of, adult fiction and YA, middle grade fiction. We've got Joanne Levy right here with us today. And we've got Christopher Paul Curtis is another favorite author of mine. I love his books. Susan Juby, not just because we read each other's manuscripts. I think she's a fabulous writer. Kenneth Opel, obviously. Alan Stratton, I love his books. Oh goodness, there's so many. I'm trying to think of some new ones I've read, because of course what I'm really appreciating now too is that we're getting a lot more diversity in our middle grade YA world. And so some more recent titles I've read that I enjoyed. S.K. Ali wrote a book called Saints and Misfits. A very new author. I don't think I've got it here because I think I brought it in. One of the sneaky things I'm doing in family law is our lead, Abigail Bianchi. She has 2 kids who are 11 and 13. And I'm trying as much as I can to have them reading as opposed to being on devices. And they're always reading books by Canadian authors. So we've cleared a lot of titles. I know, unfortunately, then the director comes in and I realize, like, you barely see the book. You see they're carrying a book, but you don't get to see the title. I'm like, no, just spend a second on the title, please. So that's my small way of trying to promote Canadian literature. Thank you, Jenny. Rebecca has another question. How many diaries, journals have you written? A lot. I literally have 2 boxes in that closet right here full of my journals. I have not kept a journal for years, but I think I wrote in a diary from the time I was 11 until the time I was, honestly, probably 30. Yeah. Yes, and I agree, Jeff. Could the host give us a web address to watch the video? That would be great, because obviously, I think Kaylee's son deserves a broad audience for this as well. Great, and we're I'm just reading the last question and chuckling. Thank you. I know this was, it's always a bit challenging with the technology, but I will stop talking now. I think I've answered all the questions in the Q&A.
Susan, there's one more. Crew asks, what was your favorite book to write?
Oh, well, that's a great question. I mean, I would say probably either We Are All Made of Molecules or No Fixed Address, because no book is easy to write. They all have periods where you feel like oh, this is garbage. What am I doing? But those books, I think I possibly had a more fully formed idea. And so, the rewriting was hard, but not, it was like a really fun challenge, I suppose, in some ways. Some of my books have been much more challenging to write. Optimists Die First was one of them where, my editors, had to very kindly tell me, this book needs a lot of work when they saw the first draft. And it changed a lot between first, second, third, fourth draft. So I seem to have a cycle where one book is easier, and I don't mean easy, and then one feels exceptionally hard. So.
Great. Well, I just want to thank everybody. Susan, thank you for coming. and talking and sharing. And thanks to all those that joined in and asked great questions, and all the school kids, Barnwell School. And the video, it will be on our YouTube, the library YouTube channel. And so you can watch it later. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it right now. That would have been awesome, but please visit the library website, our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to watch it there. And again, I'm going to just clap, because normally in a big group we would. So we can all clap individually for Susan. Yay! Thank you so much, Susan, for coming, and keep writing, and all the best on your TV show too. That sounds very interesting.
Thank you very much,
Susan.
Thanks for being here, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.